So I'm going to send in this. And this is a link to a Google Doc that has something that you can play around with in the background. And so you're very welcome to use it. And also, I'm going to ask someone, it's what, 5 minutes after or so, if maybe in about 10 minutes, if you're 5 minutes, if you can just paste that link in again for me, because I'll forget. And just folks that are coming a little later don't get to see it. So let's get rolling. Thank you for all of you who came on time. Okay, so first of all, I'm happy to introduce you whatever level you're at. If you're a real expert, I'm delighted to have you contribute, well, all of you contribute, but you know, we're all learning together. So this is actually wearing thin because we says 2025 and we don't have that much left. But I did want to say that this year, I've wanted researchers, be you a UX researcher or someone more in market insights or someone who's a PM that does some research or designer, engineer. Really, I would love for you to know enough prompting to be able to do well at using this, harnessing these powers for research. There are specialized tools for AI moderated interviews. So this allows you to let it interview people all over the world in all sorts of languages and do dynamic follow-up questions. I think it's super valuable. And if you can do that and you wind up with those 50 interviews, what do you do with them? Well, that's where AI-powered analysis comes in. And then today, I wanted to focus on these synthetic users. So if you're just joining us, feel free to dive in and just give me a 1 through 5 here on where you're at. But thank you for joining me. Cool. So I wanted to say that obviously this is a Maven lightning lesson, so it is related to a class. So I have AI for customer research. I guess I need to post the new picture because we've got a new cohort coming out in the new year that you're welcome to come to. And yeah, it has been one of the top 100 classes, which is very cool. And I also want to say, just grab a screenshot of this. You can get a nice discount since you came here to see me today. And yeah, I'd love to have you be one of the people in my class. I also want to say that I've gone beyond that actually, and this is just new. So I actually haven't launched it, like it's going to be launched today. So, and let me just make this so it's not microscopic for you. That should be good, and clearly I wear the same kind of clothes a lot. It's funny. Anyway, key point is that I wanted to say that if you're really interested in this stuff, I've got 2 classes. One of them is my original class that's sort of an overview of all the different tools that you can do in prompting. And this class here is sort of like the advanced version, where I want to talk about how you build agents, how you can build a custom workflow, how you can really use synthetic users. So I'm going to actually show you all today a couple more advanced ones, just so you get a glimmer of what's possible. But I guess the key point here is, I think this, you know, there's so much new to know. So how do you make, here, I can make this just a little bigger too. Cool. Okay, so I want you to be able to build agents for your research workflow. So things like designing a study or analyzing interviews, or for that matter, doing things like thematic analysis. I want you to know how to make these synthetic users. So actually, the document that I just shared gives you a starting point there. But there are actually, I'm going to show you a bunch of sophisticated ways to do that with specialized tools here. I want you to learn how to really do these multi-agent systems. Again, I'm going to show you a glimmer here today, and just let you know that, like, I am not a coder, but I can do all these things. So I just wanted to let you know that there is like a really interesting next level you can go well beyond prompting. So I just wanted to let you know this is out there. And so anyway, back to our regular scheduled program. But I really hope you'll consider joining me. We're going to open up things for February, so look out for that. Okay, cool. So let's go here, and I'm just going to bounce around a little bit as we go through. If you have any questions, I always like answering them, so just like dive in. So thank you all for being here. Cool. So the first thing I want to do is to just talk about how can we build these things, and what sort of defines realistic. And so let's just talk about that briefly. And I wanted to show you how to do that. And secondarily, how to, now there's lots of questions people have about, don't LLMs have bias? Like what would be appropriate? Won't it sound too much like a tech bro in Silicon Valley? Maybe. So let's talk about it and make sure you're getting your questions in your mind and just keep sharing them. And I want to actually show you, we'll do some stuff live. I figure since Gemini Pro came out, I don't know, 24 hours ago about, let's go ahead and we're going to try using Gemini 3 Pro for this. Really, any LLM you have available, we can test it and play with your free versions too, so don't worry. And then I wanted to show you some of these more advanced versions of synthetic experts and synthetic users. So just if I can simulate an end audience member, say a B2B person or a consumer, logically I can also simulate a UX researcher or a brand strategist or an accessibility expert. And so what would those people have to say about, say, a set of interviews we've done or other things like that? So that's the idea, is I want to show you sort of the power of what's possible here. And again, I want you to know that I'm not necessarily saying you have to use these or they replace testing, working with real humans. Really, everyone says that this is a great starting point. And then what we do is say this is directional, inspirational, etc. And then we're going to go dive in with real people because, for $1 million decisions, many $1 million decisions, you want to get it right. Okay, so I know synthetic users, the initial people who came up with the term, I'm not saying they were actually brand experts because it's a little creepy sounding, but if you say it a little differently, like a persona come to life or a representation of your target audience that you can, talk to, and it can provide feedback on concepts and things like that. That's what we're talking about generally. Okay, and so let's get to it. Let's try and build one of these things. So let's see. Oh yeah, I was smart enough to do this. So this is the document that has, sort of move out of the way, the QR code, that has the Google Doc that has stuff in it. So let me actually just go to this link. Let's see here. Oops, sorry. And let's give it a whirl. So I was here. I got to this page here. So if you didn't get to it, just let me know. And I can, let's see, if one of you can just share that link that I put in the chat, those of you who were here earlier today, that would be great. And here, this is very small, so let me make this bigger for you. Okay, cool. Okay, what I've tried to do here is build a prompt for you that kind of walks you through the process, really. It's almost like interviewing you to make this work. And so I say that you, LLM, are a synthetic persona generator with the ability to create detailed personas. And the goal is to create a synthetic user or expert and then assume that persona, which is kind of cool. And so I want you to first ask me, the user, what type of person would you like to create, a consumer or an expert? Know that actually a B2B person would also be a consumer, just not a fellow UX researcher or whatever. And then, so I have these questions sort of, again, inspiration for you. You can say whatever you want, and you don't really have to answer these questions. But, and we'll try this. So with consumers, like tell me a little bit about their background. With, it may be like purchasing, if that's relevant, it might not be relevant. And with experts, just what's their background and sort of what frameworks. So if they're like really into jobs to be done or something that's helpful for you, that might be what you do. Okay, and then what it does is it creates full persona. And then you can, is there anything you want to fix with it? So you can basically edit it, and then it assumes the persona. Pretty simple, right? Okay, cool. So let's just grab this guy. Oh, not all that. Let's just grab this. And I'm going to go over, got a little tabitis. I'm going to do my best here. Okay, cool. Let me just start at home here. I'll just do this fresh with you. So, yeah, so just to let you know, they have this brand new Gemini 3 that just came out. So yeah, we're going to try it. Okay, and by the way, I happen to have dropped myself into a place, and I wanted to make sure you knew about it, called Google AI Studio. So they actually offer their very latest models for free here. So maybe a little bit of candy to let you try them, but my point is that you don't have to go here. You can go wherever you typically go, but I think it's actually pretty interesting that you can get access to these kind of things, right? So very cool. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and let's see here. I want Gemini Pro Preview. Okay, good. And I'm going to I'm just pasting in that copy that I had before. Let's see, is this big enough for you? Trying to make it gigantic, but I'm trying to make it easy to read. Okay, so you know that it was like your role, goal. We all went through all this. So let me scroll down. Okay, it says, I'm ready to generate a highly detailed, realistic persona for you. Awesome. What type is, okay, so let's do a consumer today. So I'm just going to type in A to keep it simple. Okay, and this one will probably go a little slower because lots of people are trying it and it's brand new. Okay, so just like I said in my prompt, so it's saying, can you describe the lifestyle or primary interests? And I actually have a tool called Whisper Flow that I really like. I think it actually, when you're going back and forth with one of these tools, it's really, really helpful. Yeah, so I want you to think of someone who lives in the suburbs and they have a townhouse and they're sort of early stage living on their own for the first time, and they are a pet parent, and they use AI fairly frequently in their personal life, things like home decorating, thinking about travel, maybe local restaurants, also for exercise routines, things like that. Okay, cool. So it's typed all that stuff in for me. It just saves a lot of time. Okay, and I know you could do better if you're doing this sort of professionally, but I'm just trying to get us rolling with a practice one. Okay. Now, interestingly, it didn't ask me the second question. So sometimes these things are a little like, let's go, and not following the procedure. But maybe I gave it enough detail that it felt that it had to answer that question. Okay, so it's come up with this person, Mia, and 25. She has a rental townhouse in Raleigh or Austin. Okay, those are nice places. Digital strategist. Okay, it's a tough world for digital strategists these days. Oh, Baxter. Okay, welcome Baxter to the conversation. Okay, so we've got a background story. So going from college roommates to her own townhouse. She's in her nest, or I guess Mia, I guess it's she, is in her nesting phase. Okay, I know that feeling. So curator, they care about aesthetics, efficiency seeker, anxious. So these are like personality and mindset. And then you can see AI usage. And so I did talk about these things. So it's, and then it's got some pain points here. Okay, so now it's asking me, it's come back and said, is there anything about the persona you'd like to change before asking questions? Okay, so you can absolutely keep tailoring these to exactly what you want. But I'm going to say like, no, this is perfect. No, this is exactly what I want. Please proceed. Okay, maybe too many words and I could save some electrons there, but there we are. Okay, so it's thinking. Cool. Nice that this model, you can see the thinking if you choose to. Okay, so it says, I've switched gears and I'm fully in character. Honestly, perfect timing. I just finished asking ChatGPT to help me rearrange my living room again because Baxter kept knocking over my fiddle leaf fig. Okay, well, those are very finicky plants, so good luck with that. I'm in the quiet suburbs, just me and the dog at plenty of time. What do you? Okay, so now I can basically ask those questions, right? So I can be like, I don't know. It's funny, I actually didn't have a plan for what I was going to ask this person, but what are the ways that you use AI the most? And what's a situation when it didn't do what you were hoping for it to do? Okay, granted that was a double-barrel question, not my finest hour, but we're just sort of chit-chatting here, so we'll give it a try. And so why would I do something like this? I would do something like this because I would try to get the representative target audience I'm thinking about, be it a business, customer, or consumer, and I would start to ask it the same sort of questions I would want to have with those people, and just think about these possibilities. You probably aren't asking people questions who live in Sweden, Thailand, New Zealand, and somewhere in Brazil. So this is an opportunity to sort of represent those personas and trying to get a feeling for what it is that might be their interests, their thinking patterns, and so on. So think of this as like inspiration or a way to open your mind to possibilities. and things like that. So I don't think of it as fact. I don't think of it as like final. And actually, I'm kind of disappointed in you all. We don't have a question yet, so please go ahead and ask me, like, or you can even tell me what are the kind of target audiences you have, or is there a specific question you'd like me to ask this particular persona? Okay, so let's see. I asked it to find a console table. Okay, at Target or Wayfair. Sounds familiar. 2 of the links didn't work, and one was too big, and it hallucinated some stuff. Okay, that's a pretty realistic kind of situation. Let me just tell you that often people say, so we've tested humans with these questions, and they talked about things like, I'd love for my personal, like perfect ideal AI assistant to be integrated with like my calendar and my like texts and stuff, and know sort of about me and my preferences, things like that. So let me just ask this one about this and see if any of those things come up. Hi, so I'd like to know, what would your perfect AI assistant be like? What would it be capable of, and what sort of like systems would it work with, or just kind of what would be your ideal that maybe doesn't exist today but you seek? Okay, again, slightly long-winded question there, but we'll keep going. Okay, and then I'm going to switch gears and show you some other options here. But I want to remind you, you can ask questions and go back and forth just like this in a way that is, just like a normal interview. But remember, you can ask these things, questions you can't ask real participants. It's like, what are the things you would never tell an interviewer, but I need to know? Or what's the question I'm unlikely to ask but should? Or which of my questions made you most uncomfortable? So all these things are things you can't realistically ask a real human. And the other thing is, if you've got these real edge cases, like, extreme ice climber, they're hard to find. And so you might get at least some information about those kind of folks to try to be, as a first step in being more inclusive. I'm not saying it's perfect. Okay, so let's see. What does this say? Okay, so no hallucinations. Okay. Right, I want it to prompt me. So this being proactive is actually something that has come up with real humans. Learn my taste over time so that it actually intuits what your preferences are. Okay, that's another thing we heard in real life. Okay, so here you can see this is like interconnection with some of my systems. So there you go. So Marco, I think you mean of this session, and actually all of these are automatically recorded, and you'll get an email in a couple days. So yes, I will, just in case we go over, say, the half hour and stuff. So cool. Okay, good. Josh has a question here. Let's see here. Okay, let me see if I can bring this up just so you all can see it a little better. Okay, so Josh, thank you for your question. How do you train your models to understand your business? So, right. Yeah, okay, so this is a really good question, and this is actually maybe a good time to show you a different tool. So I think where Josh is headed is it could understand your business model. Right. I think the other side is there anything you know about your target audience that isn't sort of publicly available? So if you had like real specialists as well. So yeah, you can absolutely, I just tried to sort of create this to start to talk to it. But let me show you a more sophisticated system. And you could do this through prompting as well. But I want to show you sort of out of the box what you can do. So this is, I think, a great transition point. So Josh, I'm going to try to answer your question over time here right now. Cool. So I'm going to show you actually 3 different tools and 3 different, so we are just talking to one represented persona here. Okay, let me show you 3 specialized tools that are paid platforms, but I wanted to give you the feeling for what's possible. So the first is called Verve, and that's actually originally stands for Video Survey, and they realized that actually some of their, they call them agents, that are either expert agents like a UX researcher or agents like a consumer, we're actually one of the most valuable parts of what they've got rather than video surveys. So they've actually launched, so when you come in, you see something like this that looks a lot like ChatGPT. Again, I'm in Verve in a logged in mode. And I wanted to let you know they have, I mentioned, so this is really synthetic users. They've got a series of agents. So some of them are experts, like an insights expert. And this is actually my class domain. So we have a whole bunch that the people who are joined my class have made. So bear with me that there's a lot here. There's one guy that made Dan the Dad, and it made dad jokes, and he thought it was hilarious. Let's see. So I'm actually going to give you one specific one. Let's see. So we did a study on families with small children, and so we have that real actual data, and this is where I'm going to get to your answer, Josh. So let me go here, and that person's name, sorry, I always forget the name of the one person, of the synthetic user we created. It is Fiona. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to bring in Fiona into this conversation. Oh, it's right here. That would have saved me time. Okay. And then the other thing I'm going to do, to Josh's point about how do I train it to think about your business or your specific users, there's a couple pieces. So we did a set of interviews here with families with small children traveling internationally within the Verve tool platform. We also did stuff, we've got these data sets, and this can be actually all kinds of things. So this could be like PDFs or a white paper or things like that. In this case, I have some more actual research data. But I think this is where, Josh, I'd say you could describe, here's my business and my thinking and my, kind of, and here's the target audience that I seek or that I'm trying to learn, I'm trying to learn who would benefit from the kinds of things I can provide. So I think it's actually kind of interesting. You can kind of fork it. So some people actually, realistically, are worried about bias when I'm doing what I did with you just a moment ago, with just Google and just like type stuff in, that, whatever the, for example, it just makes sense that there's surely more data representatively from North Americans than someone in Nepal, for example. So there's certainly bias in these models, right? Okay, so how do we overcome that kind of thing? I've got two ways. One is that actually something like Verve, and actually all of these tools do this that I'm about to show you. Actually, this one interviews about 3 million people a year all over the world with all sorts of questions and tries to infer, really does infer some of their representative qualities. So rather than relying on, say, what people say on Reddit or Instagram, let's see what real users actually say in a sort of more structured condition, and then use that data while letting LLM support this as well. So you've got different layers. You've got the general LLM, and we know it's got its biases, it's imperfect. Then they've got a new layer of people they've interviewed. And then we've got another layer where we've collected our own data, right? That's very targeted at our specific interest. So if I put those all together, then I can ask Fiona a question about, what are some of your concerns when you are getting a hotel in a new country and you're bringing your small children? What are the kinds of things that that websites don't display but you need to know? Okay, so often in real life, people say things like, I need to know about security, like if there's a sliding door, is there a lock? How high the balcony rail is? How close am I going to be to the elevator? Is my young child going to be woken up by that? Is there a way to put a crib sort of close but not too close to my bed? Stuff like that. So this actually takes a little while, right? Because it's going to the large language model, it's looking through 2 different studies, interviews, and it's using its sort of expert system to answer this. So it's going to take a minute to do this. Oh, maybe it's going to be faster than I think. But I want to show you this representative example. And I want to anticipate the kinds of things. I actually don't know if it'll hit the mark, but I'm guessing it really might. Okay, I'll let it, okay, so it's scoring results. I'm trying to decide, should I go somewhere else? Okay, here we go. So this is saying, right, hotel concerns when traveling internationally. Okay, so door security, okay, we talked about that. Neighborhood safety, reasonable. Oh, actually, I forgot about this. Yes, they do talk about things like security in the hotel and proximity to an ER. If they wipe out and they want to go to the, And sleeping arrangements, you can see like actual cribs, bed configurations, room size, reality, noise levels. Okay, exactly what I just described. So it's doing pretty well here actually at finding this. So this is where you can have these layers, right, of just LLM plus sort of neutral data plus the data you've collected. So hopefully, Josh, that gives you a feel, and logically you could do things with, telling it about your business needs or requirements as well. Cool. Okay, so this is actually talking like one, so yeah, please keep asking questions, everyone. So this is just so far, we've just had one chat with this model over here in just straight LLM. We've done one chat with a single representative target, that represents a larger community here as well. I wanted to say that the other thing you can do is, how's this still thinking? Oh, I didn't hit run workflow. Oh well. I can see a past one. Is I can have a whole series of agents helping me out, okay? So in this case, I've got a series of experts, okay? This is a little different. So Angela's asking, could this work for usability or prototype feedback? Yeah, really interesting question. I'll get back to this in just a sec. So I do want to, Angela, I meant to say that before I switched, so thank you. You can see here that this allows you to upload documents and pictures and stuff like that. So currently, these things are best at representing, like if you had like a package design or a static website picture or a marketing message, things like that. Absolutely. So what people use Verve for right now, think of a group like Unilever, where they have like shampoos and toothpaste, and like we work with Mars, and they've got pet food, so all over the world. That's why I know about pet parents. So the question is, like, we're going to make a new snack for pet parents. What about this packaging for that? So that kind of thing is really good. Messaging kind of things also. It doesn't yet do things where you click into it and try different interactions. So if you had a complicated SaaS tool, like we were doing your like TurboTax or something, it's not there for that kind of thing yet. There are some tools that try to score your sites sort of programmatically as well. But early days. So thank you for your question. That's a really, I meant to say that before, so thanks for catching me. Cool. So here's what I've got. So now I want to talk about having a whole bunch of so we've talked about single, either experts or like consumers or B2B people. I want to go to multi-agent systems now, because these things are really possible too. There's no reason in principle you couldn't string them together, right? So here, let me just try and zoom in here and show you what I got. So in this case, you know that I just was saying that I'm launching this agentic AI for research, and I asked it, let me see if I can get to the question. I don't know if I can. Basically, I asked it, how should I present this to people so it's compelling, and what are people expecting to get out of it, and people have concerns about like technology and stuff. So this is self-centered for me, but you can see what it's done is it's said, hey, we should have a market research analyst. So it's decided on its own. We should have an audience segmentation specialist. We should have a technology communication expert. We should have so I talked about synthetic users, and that we know how to mention them too. And I've got a landing page for this. So they've got a landing page optimization specialist, and then course communicator and competitive differentiator analyst, and so on. So it's putting all these people, all these sort of experts together. It's got prompts for them, and you can change any of these prompts in a tool like this. But it's a really easy way to get multiple experts to work together for you, and then you essentially get a single report from each one, and then you ultimately get a full collective report from everyone. So it's a pretty interesting model here. I don't know that I've seen anything like it, and it's so easy to get running. So so once these all finish, I'll get a full report at the far side here. But a really interesting way to think about these things. So I just wanted to let you know, like, this is possible now. And yes, I can code this by hand if I'm pretty knowledgeable about like Pydantic and Python and these other things. But anyway, This is why sometimes these systems that are pre-built are so much easier. Yeah, the name of the app that's in Chrome right now, so let me just go back here. It's called Verve, V-U-R-V-E-Y. So it's, I go to verve.com. I'm sorry, yeah, this part of the interface is small. Yeah, so actually it's verve.app when you're in the logged in state, but verve.com just to get there. Okay, and by the way, they let me use these tools in my classes, but we have no sort of financial relationship. You know, it's just to learn. So anyway, I wanted you to know, like, this exists and it's pretty wild. So people are trying to figure out really what's the best use of this kind of thing. You can, I don't know if you saw, but I sort of dropped you in it, I guess. But when I go here, it says workflows or beta. Like, we're still all learning how to use these kind of things. But okay, so that's one possibility. So we did Verve with an individual user, and I showed you how to string some experts together to get some cool stuff out. And then you could change the experts, you could change the order in which they think, and so on. The other thing, to Angela's point, is we could say, what might be a really interesting product for a group, and then can you make a picture of it, and then have a second workflow that's like, give me 6 people who are consumers, and give me all their feedback on it. Okay, so that actually is a segue to the next 2 tools I want to show you. So the next one I want to show you is called Rally. This is called askrally.com. So here I can start to type these in here just in case you have any trouble. So keep asking questions, totally cool. Okay, so the one was Verve, and then the next one that I'm sharing is called askrally.com. Cool. And so the interesting thing about Ask Rally, I guess I don't have a like sort of just their home page here. I sort of jumped into the logged in state. Okay, so the concept behind Ask Rally, where I'm just asking one person at a time over here on Verve, or I've got a series of experts, and I really just would have to custom design it to have a series of non-experts. In this case, what it's thinking is, rather than have one entity that represents this population, let's try to represent a lot of different people to get sort of the sample you might collect if you were to do 50 interviews, say. So that's the concept between Ask Rally. I think the other Verve is maybe a little further along in its sophistication, but that's the concept here with Ask Rally. So let me just show you what I mean. So they've built up these audiences that they have general information about. So there is actually pretty good open source data that's available, and other things. I don't know exactly what proprietary data they have, but you can see that you could have, so going back to Marco's question, or Josh, I'm sorry, Josh, you could have your own custom audience that you build, right? There's no reason you have to stick to these sort of standard ones. Okay, so what I've done, what I've done is hit a button. Oh, this isn't a bad idea, actually, by accident. So these are all the millennials that it's built that represent this, late 20s to early 40s population. And of course, you can make whatever population makes sense to you. Okay, so what I've done is I clicked on, I think young parents. Right, there's a young parents group over here. Right, because you just saw we did some young parent work over at Verve. So I said, I just asked basically the same question. What do young parents want to know about hotel sites when they're traveling with their young children, but the websites rarely display? So this is giving a summary. So let's see here. Kid family amenities like cribs, okay. Play areas. Safety things like childproofing, secure balconies, okay. Right, is it accessible for strollers? Do you have anything like laundry facilities? So it didn't mention safety things and close to a hospital as a representative example. But you can look here and see each of these synthetic users has answered this question. And so it's tried to summarize it. So if you want to see sort of individual directions and then different populations, some people might be more open to change and just seeing cool experiences with their child. Other ones might be very safety conscious first, and so that's what they're really focused on. Other people want to have like fun with their kid. And so, let's see what the range of possibilities are. And that's what I think a tool like this is good at, is doing that kind of thing as well. Okay, so you've seen an example. I'm just trying to show you like these things are all possible today. So you've seen an individual, you've seen a population, and where you ask the population a specific question, and then it gives you a summary, and you can keep asking it more questions. And then I'm going to give you a third possibility. So this one is synthetic users, and it essentially tries to simulate what it is that you would do with a real set of interviews. Excuse me. So in this case, right, when I get to the home, you can basically create different styles of interviews, like what's just a basic research one, or you're testing a concept to, gosh, who is it? Angela. You can test so this is a little bit more testing like word-based concept. Like, hey, should we have a paid service that does this for kids with or families with small children? And then you can have just more pain points that the people are having, not necessarily a test of that. And then ethnographic research is really something. It actually essentially gives you a diary study through a whole day, and it's kind of amazing. So anyway, this one gives you very different styles of ways to approach research with simulated users. And then in this case, what it does is it creates, again, a little bit, this is maybe a little more, again, a little more sophisticated. So this was made by a clinical psychologist. And so what they did is they tried to say, okay, here's I made participant 1 after we give it general criteria. And again, it's like, if you just look at this shape of the sort of ocean model personality inventory here, you can see that there are different ones for different people. And the same with like the properties of like their knowledge and their background and those kind of things. So you make whoever you want, and you make a set of them, and then it makes a synthetic moderator who asks questions of the synthetic user. A little mind-bending, I know. So you get individual interviews from each person, just like you would in qualitative research, and then it gives you a general report here that synthesizes these findings. So in this case, let's see, we were talking about general AI use in your personal, I guess personal and professional life. So it's got sort of major questions here, what are demographics and so on. So I guess my point is that I can start to test these things. So just going back to big picture, all of these things are allowing us to get a first sense of what it is that we might find in real life, right? So I want to say that you can, here, I'll just kind of go back here. So I don't want to overwhelm you with tools. I want to give you the big idea. So the big idea is that there are really interesting ways to test ideas, to have a very low cost, low risk way to innovate and see it, have an indication of where real humans might go and save you time. So you can both explore really wild ideas that might be really risky or hard to do in real life. You can also get input from really global populations or representations of them, or very hard to find people. And so you can test them with individual personas, but you could see, I think it might have finished by now, with Verve, yeah, okay, so it's given me a report. So here's our, this is for the class that I'm building. So they're saying, wow, there's a whole bunch of money in this, and despite explosive growth, people are inundated with things like ChatGPT, but really can't get much past that. Okay, cool. So this is giving me a full report now on the situation, the audience, competitive landscape, and so on. So by doing this with a set of experts together, the idea is I might get a more high quality thing than if I just do deep research. It's effectively, they're probably doing similar things broadly, but this gives you far more control over individual questions and individual expert styles. So you can see that there's a really interesting way here to collectively, with all these different tools, to be able to test ideas, to come up with ideas, and explore them with experts and explore them yourself. So I really hope that you'll give these things a whirl. And yeah, anything else I wanted to say? Yeah, I just wanted to say that don't discount this whole concept of having a synthetic expert as your partner. So it's actually known as being pretty good at coaching. So if, for example, I'm not the best at like brand strategy. So that's not my expertise. I'm a cognitive scientist. So I actually having someone like that as a representation might really support my work. So hopefully you can see that I actually welcome any questions here, but I wanted to give you this big picture that basically, if I go back here, I can generate these personas really quickly. I can ask questions that I could never ask in real life. I can get some sort of directionality about people that maybe are very hard to recruit or I simply can't recruit right now. I can ask questions that I really couldn't ask my real participants. And then I can also get synthetic experts to support my reasoning. So let me show you that in real life, just to give you an example. So here, let me just try and go back to me. In our work at Brilliant Experience, my company, we will do things like have a synthetic expert that we spin up right there with our clients when we're thinking about what are your research priorities. And they say, oh yeah, I'd like to know about this, strategic question with these users. And we're like, great, let's try it right now with a synthetic user. And often they'll say, oh yeah, that isn't quite, I was actually asking this other question, not that one, and maybe that isn't the best target audience. And so regardless of what the synthetic user put out, it actually helped us to better communicate with each other what that stakeholder really wants and who maybe the best target audience is. So I'm just using it as a tool. When I have an interview guide, we make sure that our staff actually test the interview guide with synthetic users. So if there's anything like an unexpected ambiguity or even an unexpected finding, we can be a little more prepared when we get real users coming in the door. Then when we've done research, you can have a synthetic expert help you with analysis or give you a different perspective. And lastly, a lot of our clients, about 80% now when we've done research, sure, let's have a deck, but they also want us to give them a set of synthetic users that represent their population so they can keep asking questions and have the data be supporting them, but go beyond that data. So you know that almost anyone you work with, whether you're the person hiring the researchers or you're the researcher, that at the end of a presentation, people are like, did you ever ask them this? And you don't have the answer. Or if it was like 90 interviews, like, oh my God, I've got 90 hours of interviews to look through to try to get this person the answer. So these things are a really interesting way to give you an inkling, a directionality of what might be there. So hopefully this gives you an idea of what's possible. And yeah, I'd love to have you also think about, because this is a piece, I actually do synthetic users and prompting in both classes. But I wanted to say this is like a new directionality. And so I would love for you to consider being in my class that's coming up in the new year about agentic AI and sort of how you can build these sort of really sophisticated systems. So I happen to give you some things that are professional tools you can hire, but these are things you can also craft yourself through workflow tools and through things like Claude Code. It's not necessarily coding, it's more that you can spin up agents reasonably quickly. So there you go. Yeah, so Angela's asking about user testing and Qualtrics and what are they doing. I do have insights there. So I know the people at user testing better than the ones at Qualtrics, but Qualtrics actually did a survey of their clientele, and their clientele said by the end of next year, they expect that 50% of the data that's put through Qualtrics is simulated. It was like, really? And so there's this whole other side. I'm focusing on qualitative stuff, but logically you could simulate how people might do interviews. Surveys. So just put this through your mind for a sec. The reason we do surveys is because it's easier to get people to do them, and we can do them at scale. But if we can do interviews at scale and also analyze those at scale, maybe I don't have to do surveys in the same way. I'm really used to doing surveys, but maybe I don't need to do them in the same way. So I do, Angela, for you and everyone, I want you to think, just take a big step back and say, what are we really trying to accomplish, as opposed to we've always done surveys and qual and quant. So what really matters and what are we really trying to accomplish? And there are so many new tools now, or new approaches, that I want you to think about that. So the user testing folks, I think you know, there really isn't anything there yet that's sort of public. I know they're working on it and they're considering an acquisition track too. But basically, the big guys are not moving as fast as the small ones. So there are, in the AI moderation space, for example, there's a group called let me get these right. Listen Labs and Outset. There's a whole bunch of these actually. There's one called Userology, and so on. Anyway, a long list. But my key point is about 8 to 10 person groups are actually going way faster than the really large ones like Dscout or user testing. So I need you to actually keep your eye on the ball for very small groups as well, Angela. So it's a really, really good point. And that's part of the reason for my other class, here, I can just go there. Yeah, let's see here. If I just go, here, I think it'll work. The moral of the story here is that, this one. Cool. Wow, that's really big. Let me make it a little smaller. Okay, cool. This one here is a little more of an overview class. And this is where I actually cover lots of these. So there's a cool little group called Coloop, and they do amazing analysis. There's a group, we use Listen Labs, and we use a tool called Wiser for AI moderation. So little guys you might not have heard of, but actually have really interesting, unique features. The same with Verve, you may not have known. And so anyway, my point is I want you to keep on the lookout for all these kind of things. And basically the really big ones are not moving at the speed that the small innovators are. So it's a really interesting world right now for this. Okay, cool. Well, it's 11:50. I'm over my time. Thank you all so much for joining me. I hope you got some insights into what's possible. Let's see, and I think I might still have this in my, yes, this is the document I shared at the start, just in case you came late. This had the prompt for trying a synthetic user yourself. And thank you so much, everyone, for being here, and great questions. Special mention, Josh and Angela, very cool. And please do challenge anything here. But I hope you enjoyed, and it's a little eye-opening. And so think about what's possible. I want you to be curious, but I want you to be skeptical. Okay, we're going to be good researchers here. We're going to do the research, decide what is really relevant, and then act accordingly. So don't jump in, don't be terrified. Let's go in the middle. Okay, thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day, and I welcome you in any of my classes, and just to keep in touch, feel free to reach out and LinkedIn with me and stuff like that.